The Blocktalk podcast started because of my passion for the property management industry. I wanted to start a conversation and add some value within the industry with a diverse range of people and professionals who can add something extra. As we start out, my aim is that the podcast offers some useful insight into a variety of views, opinions, thoughts, and foresights from our guests, who include business leaders and industry experts. If you enjoy the podcast and want to find out any other information, head on over to brianwelsh.co.uk. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blocktalk podcast with me, Brian Welsh, and Jack Bruce. Jax, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Brian. Very well. I've just been editing some podcasts and I'm beginning to not hate the sound of my own voice. So I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing though. But yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. It's actually quite cold today. I'm in the house. I think I mentioned this before. I'm in the house that I'm renovating, and the heating went off overnight, so it's pretty Baltic today. But it's back on now, so it'll heat up soon. Hopefully. Okay, so as part of our Health and Wellbeing series this month, we have an influential and knowledgeable coach and business owner to share his expertise and help motivate you to improve your health and well-being fitness in 2022. Today, we have the pleasure of chatting to Ross Park, owner of the Fly project in Glasgow. Ross has over 20 years experience in the fitness industry and is the brains behind the Fly project's unique programming. Over the years, Ross has organised several high-profile fitness events to encourage more people to try out their unique programming, which has helped to put the Fly project firmly on the map as one of Glasgow's top places to train and get fit. That's a bit of a mouthful for me. Excuse me. Hi, Ross. How are you doing?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Jax. How you doing? Brian, I think that's the best introduction I've ever had, so thank you. Thank you for that, mate.
Good. So it's January. January is a time when a lot of people say they're going to get fitter and healthier. I know I was speaking to my business coach about it, and he's trying to push me into these sort of things.
Yeah.
Yet a lot of people don't stick at it, and I think that's always been my challenge, I guess. So what advice would you give to people to get started and keeping it going, which is the most important thing?
I think, to be honest, if you've not dipped your toe or you've dipped your toe into the fitness world before and not really stuck at it, my advice would be get some guidance, get some whether it's one-to-one personal training, whether it's a group environment, but have someone to help you with your journey, if you want to call it that. Just to get started, to give you a little bit of knowledge about what you're doing, why you're doing it, which ultimately leads to making progress, which again will generate that discipline that you need to keep going. But so yeah, I mean, the short answer is get some guidance with it, and it doesn't need to be 3 times a week, high expenditure on a personal trainer. You can chat to guys and speak to them once a month. And get a bit of structure around that. There's various ways of doing it, but just look into getting some professional guidance. You've got your personal side of things, and you've also got your group fitness, which, depending on what you prefer, there's a couple of different roads you can go down with that will just keep you right and with a view to sticking at it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it's certainly been the challenge for me, has been the kind of sticking at it point of view, but I've never kind of taken that approach to it. So tell us about the training program at Fly and why it works so well for your members.
I mean, at Fly, our sort of goal was to provide people with the most efficient and effective group fitness class around. That's really the crux of it, and we base all of our training around barbells and sort of strength and conditioning principles, which really it's simple and effective training that we structure to allow people to get the most out of their hour. Really, that's the best way I can put it.
Okay, so you do this as classes rather than...
Yeah, sorry, it's group fitness. So you've got maximum 20 people. We've got 5 coaches that are all sort of well qualified and motivated, and we just we guide everybody through each session. Each session's structured to tie into a sort of week's worth of training, and it just takes the thought process out for people that are busy, people that enjoy training but don't want to think too much about it. That's why we're there. So you can come in, switch off, and be provided with the environment and the programming that will allow you to develop really and enjoy it. Maybe even more than anything else.
Okay, cool. No, that sounds great. I must admit, I've never probably due to being intimidated, I guess, I think, which is really bizarre because both of my kids are absolute, they love the gym and they're committed and they go, regularly. And they don't, I guess if you're younger, it's easier. And if you're older and it can be, I've found it a bit intimidating.
It's such a huge thing for especially in our style of training. We're in a unit. I know I've got friends that own a similar sort of setup, and it's a barrier that we continually try to break down, because you'll find that if you would be slightly intimidated naturally just because it's the unknown, but then once you actually get your foot through the door and realise it's full of very much like-minded people that are not all different sort of shapes, sizes, ages, fitness levels, it's a real mix, and people are there just because they want to challenge themselves and make a bit of progress. So yeah, the intimidation thing is a massive, I wouldn't say issue, but it's thing that we try and break down the barriers around that to make it more accessible to people.
No, I get what you mean. I think that would, that's certainly been a bit of my experience.
Yeah.
So anyone in and around Glasgow could get involved with Fly, but for anyone listening who doesn't live in the area, are there any words of wisdom you'd give to people when choosing where and who to train with?
I mean, there's so many options now. Speak to your friends is probably a first port of call. If you can get along with a friend, again, there's a wee bit of accountability there, which is good. I would just check out what's in your area and what appeals to you, because it's obviously there are so many different options, and you got to find something that you enjoy first and foremost, or at least you like the look of, and go and check it out. And once you do get your foot through the door, try and commit to it for a month. Even just say, right, I'm going to go for a month. Try and get in a couple of times a week, and give it the time it's due to start to create a little bit of a habit now without sort of putting too much pressure on it. It's just that's the big one. If you can commit to it for a period of time, you start to see those changes and start to enjoy it even more. And that's the biggest thing that will keep you going. Is that when you start to see changes, and it maintains that motivation or discipline that you need to just to progress really, and to make it part of your routine.
Cool. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. So, Jackson, we're talking actually, and you're all about the challenges. You did the Everesting challenge last year, if I've said that right. Can you tell me why you do challenges and talk to me about that as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not naturally built for endurance. I'm sort of short and kind of stocky, so endurance was never really my thing. But a friend of mine about 6-7 years ago said, "You fancy cycling from London to Barcelona?" And I thought, you know what, sounds like good fun, sounds like a real challenge. And from that sort of summer onwards, I just decided to do something endurance based each year, which generally revolves around a bike, to be honest. I dipped my toe into boxing, did a fight for 1 year, and so each year I just try and just take myself out of my comfort zone, and it just creates a bit of discipline around my training. But the big thing for me, it creates, without sounding cheesy, a real sort of 3 to 6 months of memories with potentially people you've never met, and experiences that you would never really have ended up doing without sort of committing to something different. That's really why I do it.
Okay, that's really interesting. And do you think, I mean, are these things that anyone can do? Are there different kind of levels?
No, absolutely. I mean, anybody can get involved. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by good friends that, you know, one of my good friends owns a charity. So that's obviously a natural sort of tie-in. So we'll just fling out, like the Everesting was just something we flung out. And for folk that don't know what that is, it's just you basically go up and down the same hill on a bike until you complete the elevation of Everest. It was a cycling creation that was brought into the world a few years ago by an Australian guy. But as I say, we just flung it out there. We're all daft enough to decide, yeah, let's do it. So, and we've had an amazing few months doing it. It was an extremely tough challenge, and it put us all in a place that we didn't think we were going to make it, which is always nice to come through something like that. And as I said, the memories and friendships you create on the back of that are really what it's all about.
Okay. So a question for you. So yeah, I mean, I think that I have a business coach, and he is my accountability coach, and he challenges me all the time. But for me, I have a reasonably stressful job, or maybe I create a stressful job. I don't know. Maybe I create my own stress. We've chatted on a podcast to someone who I'm on this podcast to someone who talked about a survey that they did for property managers, which is effectively the biggest part of the one of the businesses that I'm involved in, and one of the biggest challenges was kind of stress and these sort of things.
Yeah.
What you offer help these kind of guys when they're kind of had a pretty stressful day at work, I guess?
I think just from my point of view, and that what we provide people is a place that they can come in, switch off, and leave feeling brilliant. You know, I think that's what it's all about, and taking the thought process out, taking the stress out of it, and go into an environment, you know, whether it's a group fitness environment or working with somebody on a one-to-one level, that allows you to enjoy what you're doing, enjoy moving better first and foremost, and from a personal level, don't put too much stress on getting to any particular goal initially. You know, just turn up, and good things will happen. And I think if you're in the correct environment that you enjoy, and you're surrounded by good people, then you know that's the first stage of that.
Right. Okay. Excellent. I think I've probably already asked you this actually during the chat anyway. But have you got anything else to say to anyone who's kind of listening? Who's maybe, I was once told I was a great procrastinator. I try not to be these days. But anyone kind of listening, I know I talked about being intimidated, but anyone who's nervous or procrastinating about going to gym or starting out, I mean, how do you taking that first step, That's
I mean, taking the first step's the hard bit, and I think potentially leaning on a friend, if you are really nervous about things, you and a friend go and approach a trainer or get involved in a group fitness environment. At least you get somebody there to sort of help you through the early stages of that. But ultimately, you got to look at yourself and decide: do you want to do it or do you not? And I'm a great believer in, if you're going to do something, commit to it, and it's not going to be that easy, and there's no point in dressing that up. But you got to just commit to it, and good things will happen. Really, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of. It was funny you were talking about earlier, because one of the things I talked to my business coach about is habits. Yeah. And it's creating that kind of, in the morning, kind of have this this routine that you go through, and we call it. There's a great book actually that you got me to read called Atomic Habits, and it's all about habit stacking. So I do certain things every morning. So I walk the dog and try and kid myself that's my exercise for the day. And then I look at my to-do list for what was I meant to get done yesterday? Did I get it done? Yes, I did. And what am I going to do today? And then I kind of have breakfast and then shower and whatever. And I have this kind of routine. What he talks about is, and if you're struggling to get one of those maybe not so easy things to do, to kind of put it in the middle of that routine so it actually becomes a routine? Do you see what I mean?
Very much so, very much so. And I think keeping it simple, and not trying to create a big routine. If you don't have one, then, take it small steps.
Yeah.
If your first thing is, I'm going to commit to something simple for the first week, that, I'm actually going to get out and walk, or I'm going to join a gym if you're at that stage. And don't think too much about, goals and where I need to be and, how long it's going to take me to get there. Just simply dial it into your routine, as you're talking about. Like, I'm going to get there every day, or build that in. That's a win straight away. If you get there, if you wake up, have a glass of water, then, commit to getting to whether it is a walk or you are going to go to a gym. Just keep it simple around that and say that's your goal. Just turning up. And then after a month, you'll find, right, okay, I'm going to start eating a little bit better, and, I'm going to start pushing this, and, things start to develop from there. But keep it simple at the start would be my advice.
Brilliant. Okay, no, that's really useful. That's really useful. January is the time when a lot of people do these things, and I guess it is. January is a great reflection time as well.
Absolutely, and it's a good time to act on things. But I think having too sort of grand a goal and saying, right, in 3 months I'm going to do this, that, and that can actually be detrimental, because you might not hit where you think you need to be after the first couple of weeks. So yeah, keep it simple. Turn up for the first month, and you'll find that good things will happen.
Yeah, sure. Okay, brilliant. It's been great chatting to you, Ross.
No, pleasure.
What happens at this point is Jax jumps in and asks our 3 quirky questions. So, Jax,
yes, my 3 quirky questions. Thanks, Ross. That was really good. As a fly member, I can concur that it is a great place to train. It is intimidating, even as someone who was training for about 15 years before I came along to fly. But once you get over that feeling, it's a good place to train and be amongst other good people. So, so the first of the 3 quirky questions are: what's your biggest failure across your entire career, and what did you learn from it?
I think, to be honest, there's been a few, just to getting to the point we're at just now, and from a professional level, the structure, the system, how everything runs, as you can imagine. Over the years, I've been involved in fitness for over 20 years, so there's been quite a few things that didn't go particularly well, shall we say. But I think it's having the confidence and seeing that, right, that didn't work, let's make a change on that and push forward with something else. So it's just recognising when things haven't gone so well and not trying to bang your head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been plenty of those.
Yeah, cool. Good. So if you ruled the world for a day, what would you do?
I think, to be honest, at this stage of the game, we all need a right good party, and I think we all need, if we could take COVID out of the equation for a couple of days, everything for free, everybody just goes out, has a great time, everyone in the shops is free, all the food and drink is free, then that's how I would put that into place at least once a year.
So rule the world for a day for it every year for the rest of your life.
I just one day. Take that.
I'm voting for you, Ross. So when you're 70 and you look back at your life, what will you be glad you did or feel proud of? Either something you've already done or something that you want to do?
I suppose kind of on a general level, just proud to committing to following a path that I wanted to, committing to the challenges we had talked about previously, and lucky enough to surround myself by good people, and that's what I've been most proud of, that commitment to wanting to achieve things and push forward, and having good people around me. Yeah.
So you've already done all that. Tick.
So going forward, I just obviously get goals around the business and personal goals. So it'd be nice to make sure that they're all the boxes are ticked when I'm sitting back, with my nice whiskey at 70 years old.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ross.
No, pleasure.
Brian.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Jax. They were good. They were really good, especially the party one. Yeah, I think we're all in need of that. Listen, Ross, thanks very much for coming on. It's a well-being kind of theme this month, so you really appreciate you coming.
No, happy to help. Happy to, if anybody wants to reach out, if I've struck a chord with anybody and even just want to have a quick chat, they can get me on the Flag Project website. My email address is on there if you've got questions, and they're maybe needing a bit of guidance, and if I can help them in any way, then I'd be happy to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Ross.
My pleasure.